Back to another album review. Today's review is on the soundtrack to Lost Highway. Lost Highway is a horror film from '97 that was directed by David Lynch and stars Bill Pullman. David Lynch is known for having a lot of strange-ass imagery in his movies. Believe me, because I've seen some of them, including Eraserhead, The Elephant Man, and of course, Lost Highway. Lost Highway was released on January 15th, '97 in France, and was released in America a month later. This only begs the question, if the movie was filmed in Los Angeles, then why release it in France a month before America? I think the reason why is because the film was financed by the French production company Cibi 2000. Anyways, the soundtrack was released on February 18th, '97 on Nothing Records and Interscope Records. It was produced by Trent Reznor and it was executive produced by David Lynch. It makes sense why David Lynch served as the executive producer because he directed the movie. The soundtrack has original compositions by Angelo Badalamenti, Trent Reznor, and Barry Adamson, as well as new original songs by Niage and Smashing Pumpkins. Speaking of which, let's talk about the songs. The intro to the soundtrack is I Am Deranged, edited by David Bowie. The song I Am Deranged first appeared on David Bowie's album Outside from '95. It's good as fuck, by the way. I said this before and I'll say it again. You know you're doing something right when your soundtrack starts with a David Bowie song. Next song is Videodrome's Questions by Trent Reznor. This is an original composition by Trent Reznor, but without the Nine Inch Nails moniker. Speaking of which, after that is The Perfect Drug by Nine Inch Nails, which was released as a single in February of '97. This is an original song that Nine Inch Nails made for the film. It was released as an EP with remix versions of the song, but the non-US versions have the original version included. The original version is on the soundtrack, though. The music video was made, and I'm including a link in the description. Up next are two original compositions by Angelo Badalamenti, Red Bats with Teeth, and Haunting and Heartbreaking. Next up is I by the Smashing Pumpkins, which was released as a single in '97. The Smashing Pumpkins made the song specifically for the soundtrack, which I think is pretty cool. A little known fact is I actually got to see the Smashing Pumpkins in concert almost a decade ago at the time of me making this video, and I just might get around to reviewing their albums someday. That's followed up by Dub Driving by Angelo Badalamenti. He followed up with Mr. Eddie's Theme 1 by Barry Adamson, and this is the original composition made for the movie. What comes next is This Magic Moment by Lou Reed. It's actually a cover of a song by the Drifters. I have never heard the original version, but I think this cover is pretty good. Comes after that is Mr. Eddie's Theme 2 by Barry Adamson. Essentially the sequel to Theme 1. Follows that is Fred and Renee Make Love by Angelo Badalamenti. Not much need to be said because the title says it all. The track after that is Apple of Sodom by Marilyn Manson. This is an original song made for the soundtrack. Of course, this was nearly 25 years before Manson was outed as a serial abuser, and I always skip the song whenever I listen to the soundtrack. The following track is, I can't really pronounce it, so it's right there. I'm not sure if you can see it, though. It's track 12. I think it's pronounced as Insensitez by Antonio Carlos Jobim. This track originally came out in '63. Figures since a lot of the music David Lynch listens to is typically from the '50s, '60s, and '70s. Next track is Something Wicked This Way Comes, edited by Barry Adamson. Next up is I Put a Spell on You by Marilyn Manson. It's actually a cover of a song from Screamin' Jay Hawkins. The original version came out in '56. I don't think anyone expected Manson to cover anything from the '50s. Yes, I do skip the song whenever I listen to the soundtrack. Up next are Fats Revisited and Fred's World by Angelo Badalamenti. After that is Rammstein Edit by Rammstein. This track came directly from Rammstein's debut album, Herzeleid, from '95. The next track is Hollywood Sunset by Barry Adamson. That's followed up by High Rate Mitch, Edit by Rammstein. There's another track that came directly from Rammstein's debut album. It followed up with Police by Angelo Badalamenti. The second to last track is Driver Down by Trent Reznor. This is an original composition by Reznor, but without the Nine Inch Nails moniker this time. The finale to the soundtrack is I'm Deranged, reprised by David Bowie. When researching the soundtrack, I read that it was certified platinum in Canada by selling over 1,000 copies up there, and gold in the US by selling over 500,000 copies here. As for the critics, they mostly gave it positive reviews. One exception was Pitchfork Media, who only gave it a 5.2 out of 10. For that I say, fuck Pitchfork. Maybe I should start calling those hipsters Bitchfork from now on. And now for my thoughts. I really enjoyed the soundtrack. Aside from the Marilyn Manson songs, it's a very good soundtrack on its own, and I highly recommend it. Now is the part where I question you. Have you listened to the soundtrack to Lost Highway? If so, what are your thoughts on it? What's your favorite song from it? What artist do you think should have been featured instead of Marilyn Manson? Let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to press the notification bell to notify future videos. Thanks for watching. I'll be back soon with another review.